As a kid, growing up, you'd be in your living room, probably have to close the curtains just in case the sun came in because you didn't want to miss anything. You'd be sat there, you'd probably got a fire on, and your world would open up.
Listening to dear old Bill McLaren, it allows us to form those annual rivalries again, red against white, green against blue. I know the World Cup is still the premier event, but for me the Six Nations at this time of year marks that transition from winter to spring, and it's still the best.
What would we do this time of year without it? It was Blue Monday last week. It gives everyone who loves their rugby a great opportunity to get involved, to look forward to something exciting every winter when it's freezing cold outside. It's a great spectacle, fantastic tournament.
But you still just can't beat everything that comes with the Six Nations, the rivalries, the fanfare. The build-up is fantastic, and I think when you look at this year with the backdrop of the Lions Tour as well, it looks incredibly competitive. Yes, England and Ireland may be just a little bit ahead, but Wales, Scotland, France, Italy under Conor O'Shea will all want to achieve big things, so it's all set up fantastically.
I mean, this could be a seriously competitive championship. I mean, the last few have gone down to points difference. England won a Grand Slam last year, but prior to that, twice they lost it on points difference. It's always that close.
Us, the French, against the English, the Celts, it's beautiful. So I'm really expecting and looking forward to it.
It was the only way you learnt geography, you learnt about human beings, you learnt about big forwards. It had everything. It was like a great big bubbling stew every year, and wonderful thing.
Well, I love it this time of the year. I wouldn't like to see it moved, really. I think it's the perfect antidote to the sort of the dark days of midwinter and takes you into spring. So both watching the rugby as well as for the soul in terms of getting you into spring, I think it's a marvellous sort of tournament.
I'm going to put the kiss of death on Ireland. I think I was very impressed with it in the autumn. And if the scriptwriters are on cue, the big game between England and Ireland in Dublin, I think the Irish could just about sneak it with that home advantage.
I think Ireland are going to win. I think Ireland are going to sneak it on that final day in Dublin. I probably won't be the first to say that or the last, to be honest, but I just think the way the fixture lists are set up, Ireland and England are the strongest teams, and there just seems to be the most riding on that game. So it could well come down to that to decide maybe a Grand Slam, who knows?
I say England because that's the value bet. But if you were to give me a fiver to put on an outsider, I quite like Scotland's chances, quite like the way they're going. And I think Ireland, having beaten the three Southern Hemisphere teams in the autumn, are going to be there or thereabouts, no question.
I'd back Ireland. I think their first match in Scotland is very, very dangerous for them. I think if they get through that, though, I think they'll have a pretty good chance.
I'm going to back England. I think they're going to pick up a few bonus points while winning a couple of games, and if they do lose, I don't think they're going to lose by more than 7 points. So I'm backing England, although I hope it comes down to that last weekend in Dublin.
I think France have picked up, and France of old would beat anybody anywhere. So as that, Scotland have been promising, consistently promising, if that's not a bit of a contradiction. So I think they're due delivery, and Wales have been strong, and I'd love to see what Conor O'Shea is going to do with Italy. So I think it's the most competitive championship we've had for several years.
As much as we might make Ireland perhaps the favourites with England at home on the final weekend, they could easily lose at Murrayfield on the opening weekend. The French could beat England at Twickenham. Wales might even lose in Italy. It's that kind of tournament, especially on the opening weekend. So honest answer, maybe Ireland, but genuinely no idea.
So I'm looking at a couple of fixtures. Italy against Wales on the opening weekend. Wales start slowly. Italy normally start pretty fast. Add in the fact they've got a pretty gun coaching team there with Conor O'Shea, Mike Catt, Brendan Venter et al. So good chance maybe that Italy will fancy the chance of catching Wales cold. And two games at Murrayfield really looking forward to. Scotland against Ireland on the opening weekend. Scotland against Wales a few rounds in. If Scotland are going to finally get into the top half of the table and I suppose make the most of all this positivity around Scottish rugby and all their potential, they've got to win one or both of those big games at Murrayfield.
France has had a great autumn internationals. It was great against the All Blacks. They did put on great games, so the French, were expecting them to perform and to do well, to do as best as they can against England.
Yeah, the most exciting fixture for me is England against Ireland in Dublin. Hopefully that's going to be a Grand Slam decider, if not a championship decider. So a nice rivalry forming there and a really exciting battle, hopefully.
That is the one that stands out. However, as far as kind of banana skins. I think when Wales go up to Murrayfield against Scotland, and won for quite a few years Scotland up in Murrayfield, I do fancy Scotland to cause a few upsets. I think, big send off for Vern Cotter.
I quite like the idea of Wales Ireland in Cardiff on a Friday night. And Friday night rugby isn't everyone's cup of tea, but those games have a magnificent atmosphere and they're always really good.
Well, I remember still Bill's old Burr over Calcutta Cup matches. So for us on ITV this year to have England against Scotland at Twickenham will be a really special one for me.
I quite like the look of France against Scotland on the second weekend, just because I feel they're the two teams who are really pushing to kind of crack the kind of level of the top two, and Scotland we think are improving and seem to be showing that, and France as well have shown promise. So I think that will define their Six Nations. If they're going to be a serious contender, one of those, they have to win that game, each of those two teams.
Well, I mean, plainly Ireland, England, if the form book holds through the championship, that will be the Grand Slam game. It would also rather deliciously be an opportunity for England to secure the world record of successive wins, and to do that in the game before the Lions go to New Zealand and to take that record off the world champion All Blacks would be kind of special for a lot of people, and would certainly kind of wind up New Zealand ahead of the Lions too.
Looking forward to seeing how Nathan Hughes goes. This is a player who has got huge shoes to fill. He did a very good job of doing that in the final round of the autumn against Australia. But can he, over the course of 5 rounds, get close to doing what Billy Vunipola did for England in the Grand Slam last year? So looking forward to seeing how Hughes goes.
Jack Noel of England, I think, is in cracking form. I'll be looking at Maro Itoje of England, who can do anything, I think. But I'd also be looking at some of those Irish forwards. There's a Lions tour coming up.
Kevin Gourdon in France, because he's pretty promising. He did great autumn internationals. He was great in November.
Seen a lot of Thomas Young in the Premiership. It'll be interesting to see how Rob Howley decides to use him. Wales aren't short of back row options, but Thomas Young has been brilliant. Alex Lazowski as well, from an English perspective, has been outstanding. He's really stepped up since moving to Saracens this season.
Giorgio Bronzini, the Italian scrum half, who Italy desperately need talented players, and it seems like they actually now have 2 talented scrum halves in Bronzini and Eduardo Gori.
Sam Davis, the Welsh fly half, he'll be understudy to Dan Bigger, I'd imagine, from the start, but I think he's very, very gifted, almost like George Ford. He's got all the skills, lovely delayed passes. He's very, very talented. I'd like to see him, stimulate that Welsh backline and score a few tries.
Xander Ferguson, the Scotland prop, who would have been behind WP Nell, who is now injured. So Xander Ferguson comes into the tournament. He has been capped off the bench in last year's Six Nations, but he's been playing so well in the Pro 12 and in the European Champions Cup. He's one young player who I'm really excited about watching, who could be a Lions bolter.
It's not so much the newcomers, it's guys like Finn Russell, the Scotland fly half, Stuart Hogg at the back for Scotland. It's guys who have played in teams who have underperformed but have a real lot of talent themselves.
To see if Itoje can carry on from where he started to emerge, the young Irish guys coming through Ringrose, and the partnership with Henshaw potentially is one I'm really looking forward to, and I guess a few unknown Italians. I should know them, but I don't, but I think they've blooded people as well.
Scannell brothers are really exciting. Rory Scannell playing really well for Munster in the centre, and Niall Scannell has a good chance of playing back up to Rory Bester hooker. So 2 brothers, nice story, and hopefully they'll both get their caps even on the same day maybe.
Italy are going to have another tough campaign, but if they can upset the Welsh and go on to kind of win a few more games, I think Conor O'Shea will be kind of carried out of the Stadio Olympio on the shoulders of giants.
What will be the biggest surprise? I think Italy. I really do think Conor O'Shea's already had a little bit of a kind of morale boosting impact there. So I think they'll knock 1 if not 2 teams over.
I think it's probably going to be France's kind of resurgence. I think the pack is a much better unit than it was, say, last year. They're very well drilled. Guy Neves has had a year to get that coaching philosophy in anyway. Wesley Fofana's injury has taken the steam out of their cause somewhat, but I still think that they might just ruffle up some feathers and cause a surprise or 2.
I'm going to stick with Scotland in the sense that they're a team that haven't done a huge amount in recent years but have promised a fair amount, and I think Vern Cotter has got them moving in the right direction. So I'll say Scotland to beat Wales and to finish in the top half of the table.
I think we're all looking at Italy and Conor O'Shea. We saw what they did against South Africa. which wasn't followed up the week after, but they certainly have that kind of joint killing ability and a cohesive coaching team now with some really impressive names in there. So I'm looking at Italy for a couple of big shock wins.
First weekend, Italy at home to Wales. That just has the look of a Wales side that we aren't quite sure what to expect from because of their fitful autumn.
Scotland can be a great surprise because they have very talented squad. It will be the last tournament of Vern Cotter. I'm sure that the players want their coach to leave on a good note.
I suspect by the end of the tournament we're going to be talking about Owen Farrell because we're kind of always talking about Owen.
The player we'll be talking about, Itoje, I might already have mentioned him. I think Farrell's goal kicking will be important, and I'd like to see someone like Stuart Hogg from Scotland really make. He has made a mark before, but I'd like to see that because that will mean Scotland are also right back up there.
Conor Murray has been absolutely exceptional in recent months for Munster and Ireland. Everything goes through him. Everything good that both those teams do goes through him. So Conor Murray, I think, is on track to be player of the tournament, a world-class player.
Baptiste Serin, the France scrum half, who is electric. Just wonderful range of skills. Can goal kick like all French scrum halves. So Baptiste Serin will get everyone on the edge of their seats.
CJ Stander, I think, is someone to watch. He's been absolutely sensational for Munster. He's only been in international rugby for a year, but if he can take that club form into the international game, and there are a few players we could look at who have been playing really well for their clubs. I don't know, Remy Lamrat at Clermont-Auvergne in France, Jack Knoll at Exeter and England. Stander, for example, someone that if he can reach the heights that he's reached with Munster for Ireland, that'll be really hard not to see him going on that Lions tour as well.
I probably would have said Maro Itoje until about 2 weeks ago, and now I think it's Johnny Gray. I think Johnny Gray, who never misses a tackle, is almost playing his way into a Lions starting berth in a Test match, which you never would have thought a year ago. The guy never misses a tackle. He's an athlete. He dominates lineouts. He scores tries. I just wonder if this might be the tournament where he really steals the show, to be honest.
Tyg Furlong of Ireland, I think that, he'll nail down or he'll anchor that scrum as a tight head. I think they call him jukebox because of all the hits he does in the loose. He just seems to be a immense breakthrough, and a lot of people tipping him for the Lions. And I think Owen Farrell of England, I think he's just really kind of upped his game. He's a complete package now. At 12 can fill in at 10. I just think his leadership qualities, for me, he's one of the stand-up players in the Northern Hemisphere easily.
This might be the tournament where the rest of the world, those in the Southern Hemisphere, suddenly go, Maro Itoje, wow, he's some player.